He walked the same street every morning like it was a ritual. His shoes were torn at the edges, his jacket barely hanging together at the seams, and his broom. It was older than some of the buildings around him. Every morning, before the city was fully awake, before the coffee shops opened and the streets filled with noise, he was already there, sweeping, cleaning, quietly, alone. People passed by him every single day, too busy with their phones, their thoughts, their lives to even look at him. Some avoided eye contact, some wrinkled their noses, and some just laughed. Why bother, they said. Nobody cares. Teenagers made fun of him. Once, someone threw an empty can near his feet and laughed when he quietly picked it up without saying a word. They called him names, shot videos for fun. To them, he was just another invisible man who didn't matter. But to one man, he wasn't invisible. A journalist named Mark had noticed him one cold Thursday morning. He had spilled coffee on himself while rushing to his car and looked up to see this old man calmly sweeping the sidewalk as if he owned it. There was something in the way he moved. Not in a hurry, not broken, not bitter, just graceful, almost sacred. Mark was curious. He started watching him every morning, from across the street, from his car, from the coffee shop window. He watched the way the old man picked up tiny wrappers and gently placed them in a bag, the way he stopped to pet a street dog, giving it part of his sandwich, the way he waited patiently for a blind man to cross the road, even though no one else noticed. There was no uniform, no name tag, no city vehicle, just one old man with a broom, sweeping like he was protecting something sacred. On the fifth day, Mark finally crossed the street. "Sir," he said, "may I ask you something?" The old man looked up and nodded. "I see you here every day. You sweep like this street belongs to you." The old man gave a small smile. "It does," he said quietly. Mark paused. "Do you work for the city?" "No," the old man replied. "I don't work for anyone. I clean this street because my wife used to walk this path every morning. For 2 years, she walked here to get to the hospital. She was fighting cancer." His voice broke, but he kept going. "She always said it made her feel better when the ground was clean, like the world was still kind, like hope still existed." He looked down. "She died 7 years ago, but I kept sweeping, because in some strange way, when I do this, I feel close to her. I imagine her feet walking behind me, and I don't want her path to ever be dirty." Mark didn't know what to say. He felt his throat tighten, his eyes burn. He had come to find a story. What he found was a man holding on to love with a broom and a memory. That night, Mark didn't sleep. He wrote the story, poured his heart into it. No clickbait, no sad music, just the truth. He didn't even use the man's name. He titled it, "The Man Who Sweeps for Someone Who Can't Walk Anymore." He posted it at 1:17 a.m. and forgot about it until the morning came. The old man stepped out of his small rented room, picked up his broom, and headed to the sidewalk. But something was different. The street wasn't empty. There were people standing there, with flowers, with cameras, with signs. People who had read the story, people who had been moved, and waiting silently in the front row. With tears in his eyes was Mark. The old man looked around, confused. He had swept the street for years, and never once had anyone stopped, let alone gathered. But now, he was surrounded. Dozens of strangers stood silently, holding flowers, some with tears in their eyes, some just standing there, not knowing what to say. There were people recording, to mock, but to remember. One little girl walked up to him with a handmade card. It said, "For your wife. She must be proud." He knelt down slowly, his hands shaking as he took the card, whispering, "Thank you." A young woman came forward and offered him coffee and a fresh sandwich. "We just wanted to say we see you," she said, her voice cracking. "And we're sorry we didn't see you sooner." And then came Mark, the journalist, now overwhelmed by what his article had done. He hugged the old man without a word. Cameras flashed, but no one spoke. The silence wasn't awkward, it was respectful. It was the kind of silence you give to something sacred. Within hours, news vans started to arrive. TV reporters tried to interview him, but he politely declined. He didn't want fame. He didn't want money. He just wanted to sweep. That afternoon, the city mayor showed up. He offered him a job, an honorary position in the city's beautification department, a monthly pension, and a plaque with his wife's name engraved on a bench, right where she used to wait for the bus. The old man said nothing. He just looked at the bench, his eyes full of tears. She would have liked this, he whispered. Donations began pouring in from people across the country. Someone paid off his rent for the next 5 years. A group of kids started a campaign called Sweep with Love and clean their neighborhoods every Sunday in memory of the story. And for the first time in years, the old man wasn't alone. He was invited to schools, to events, to speak, but he always said the same thing. I'm not special. I'm just a man in love with a memory. The sidewalk he used to sweep alone was now always clean, not because he did it, but because others did it for him. People finally understood what he had been doing all along, not just cleaning a path, but preserving a story. His story, her story, their story, and even though he never asked for recognition, he became a quiet hero, not just in his town, but across the world. A man who swept for love, and in doing so, cleaned the dust from all our hearts. The video of that day went viral. Millions watched it. Thousands cried. People started noticing the silent souls around them. The janitors, the guards, the old women feeding birds, the quiet kindness we pass by every day. And something changed. Just a little, but it did. The next morning, the old man came out again. He stood at the corner, broom in hand. But this time, he didn't start sweeping. He stood still, looking at the sunrise. A young boy came and stood beside him with a small broom of his own. The old man smiled, and for the first time in a long, long time, he said, "Let's do this together."